I don't know what it is, but it's not my wife. Something is wrong. I can feel it. I'm not sure what to do, but I need help. Let me explain. It was early Saturday morning when we loaded up the car, the sun just starting to rise. My wife and I had both taken a week off work, planning to spend some time camping. Just a half hour outside town sat a beautiful lake surrounded by forest. We'd been there before with friends and had picked out a perfect spot right by the water. We left the house sipping our coffee, chatting about the trip. She was so excited about roasting marshmallows over a campfire. I never cared for s'mores, too messy and honestly not worth the effort, but she always insisted. What I was looking forward to was fishing. I had promised to teach her, even though she didn't seem that interested. We were both in high spirits, thrilled to escape work and family for a bit. The best part? We'd be out of cell range, just the two of us, alone for a few days. We parked at the trailhead, geared up, and started the hour-long hike toward the lake, weighed down by our supplies. The weather couldn't have been better. Cool, breezy, with birds chirping all around. It felt like a perfect day. Once we arrived, we set up camp and spent most of the day swimming in the lake. As evening approached, we got a fire going. She pulled out the marshmallows and grinned. No harm in having a s'more or two before dinner, right, honey? I started prepping our meal while she roasted marshmallows. That's when we noticed the silence. Total silence. Normally, we camped with a bunch of friends, so maybe we just never realized how quiet the place could get without all the noise. After dinner, we turned in for the night. We climbed into the tent, curled up together, and drifted off. I don't know how long I slept before waking up. I slipped out of the tent to relieve myself and wandered just a bit into the trees. While I stood there, I suddenly heard a faint crunching, footsteps coming from deeper in the forest. Hello? Anyone there? No answer. Honey? That you? Still nothing. Uneasy, I finished quickly and rushed back to the tent. She was still there, fast asleep, exactly where I'd left her. The next morning I was up before dawn, boiling water over a small fire for coffee. I couldn't wait to finally break out the fishing poles. I couldn't believe we'd been married 10 years, and I'd never taken her fishing before. She eventually crawled out of the tent, rubbing her eyes, and spotted the rods. She didn't look thrilled, but the coffee helped lift her mood. As I was showing her some basic knots, I casually mentioned, "Hey, do you know if there are other good campsites nearby? I think we might have neighbors out here." She just shrugged. There are plenty of spots someone else could be using. We spent hours fishing, though with different results. I barely caught anything, while she somehow kept reeling them in. Beginner's luck, I guess, but seriously, she caught enough to feed us twice over. As the sun began to sink behind the trees, I showed her how to clean the fish. That night, it was her turn to cook. Since she'd done the hard part, it only seemed fair. She set to work grilling the fish over the fire, and once again, we noticed it, the eerie stillness creeping back into the woods around us. Just past the sound of the crackling fire, I picked up on faint footsteps beyond the trees. I looked at her and asked, "Honey, do you hear that?" She nodded. "Told you someone else must be camping nearby." I squinted into the trees, trying to make something out through the shadows, but there was nothing there. We ended up brushing it off and digging into the fish. It was delicious, and we ate until we were stuffed. Sleepiness started to settle in, and I told her I was going to rinse off our dishes in the lake before we turned in. I carried the plates and utensils to the shoreline and started scrubbing them in the cool water. A minute or two passed when I heard it again, footsteps, this time coming from farther down along the water's edge. I saw a figure approaching, backlit faintly by moonlight. It was coming from the opposite direction of our camp, so I knew it wasn't her. Cautiously, I called out, "Hello?" No reply. The figure stopped about 50 feet away and just stood there, staring in my direction. I tried again. Hey, are you okay? Do you need help? Still nothing. At that point, the fear fully set in. I grabbed everything and bolted back to camp. When I got there, she was already tucked into the tent, nearly asleep. I crawled in beside her and said, "Hey babe, someone is camping down the lake and they're seriously creepy." She chuckled sleepily, clearly not taking it as seriously as I was. A few hours later, I woke up needing to pee again. I walked out to the same spot in the woods, just a short way from the tent. I stood quietly for a moment listening. No footsteps this time, but when I turned back toward camp, I froze. There was someone standing right next to the tent, a silhouette against the canvas. "Honey, is that you?" I asked. It whispered, "Yeah, babe, it's just me." Relieved, I started to walk toward the tent until the figure suddenly turned and bolted into the forest at an impossible speed. I stood there, paralyzed by a mix of fear and confusion, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. Panicked, I rushed back and unzipped the tent in a frenzy. My wife sat upright inside, eyes wide with terror. "What were you doing out there? Why weren't you answering me?" "That wasn't me," I told her. "Someone else was outside the tent." She didn't have to say a word. I could see the fear in her face. "Can you start another fire?" she asked. I nodded and got to it. Before long, I had the fire blazing. She stepped out of the tent and sat beside me. "We're staying up by the fire tonight, right?" she asked. "I'm not going to sleep while that thing is creeping around." "Of course," I said. "We'll stay awake, and when the sun comes up, we'll find their camp. I want to know what the hell that guy's doing out here." "No," she replied firmly. "We're packing up and leaving first thing in the morning. There's no way I'm going to enjoy this trip if I have to keep worrying about some weirdo sneaking around our site." It was hard to argue. She wasn't wrong. "Besides," she added, glancing into the trees, "I can't shake the feeling that he's watching us." I wanted to believe it was just my nerves, but I felt the same thing. That cold sense of being observed. The plan was simple: stay by the fire until sunrise, then get the hell out. But we'd overlooked one important detail. We hadn't brought enough firewood to keep it going all night. We started burning through what we had. Branch after branch tossed into the flames. As the pile dwindled, we began hearing the same unsettling footsteps circling just beyond the trees. Then it started again, a voice, whispering, "Hey, are you okay?" He was moving in a circle around us, just outside the firelight. "Do you need something?" The voice was louder now, still broken, unsure. "Honey, is that you?" I tensed. The tone wasn't right. It was hard to place, neither fully male nor female. The cadence was all wrong, like it was mimicking human speech without understanding the words. Raspy, dry, wrong. Then it screamed, "Yeah! Babe, it's just me!" That was it. I snapped. It wasn't just watching us, it was mocking us. I grabbed my knife and charged toward the voice, straight into the tree line, and then I saw it, crouched low behind a tree, only 20 feet away. When it rose, something in me froze. The shape was off. It was human-like, but not quite. I couldn't explain it, but something about its posture or proportions made my skin crawl. It slowly turned and walked away, disappearing deeper into the woods. We sat in silence for an hour after that. No more footsteps, no more voices, but we were nearly out of wood, and the fire was burning low. The last branch was already crackling in the flames. "I'll get more," I told her. "Stay here by the fire. I'll be quick." She shook her head, hesitant. I understood. Honestly, I was scared too. "I won't go far," I assured her. "If anything happens, just call out. I'll hear you." "Okay," she said. "Go ahead. I'll be fine. Just be fast." I set off, heading in the same direction I'd last seen the figure. I didn't want to run into it again, but if it was out there, I wanted to keep myself between it and my wife. Every sense was sharpened. My eyes darted to every movement in the shadows, every shift of the trees. My ears strained for any noise, footsteps, whispers, anything. My muscles were tight, heart racing, ready to fight, or more likely, bolt at the first sign of danger. After a few tense minutes, I gathered enough branches and turned back toward camp. Nothing had happened. No sounds, no movement, just the firelight glowing faintly through the trees ahead. When I got back to camp, she was gone. There was no sign of her anywhere, only blood, a lot of it. I screamed and tore off into the woods, frantically searching. I found scraps of blood-soaked clothing scattered just beyond the edge of the clearing, but no sign of her. My heart was pounding as I circled the campsite over and over, scanning every shadow. That's when I saw her. She was lying unconscious on the ground, completely naked, motionless. I ran to her side, trying to lift her onto my back, but she felt incredibly heavy, far heavier than I remembered. And she's always been so small, so light. It made no sense. I managed to drag her back into the firelight. Laying her gently on the ground, I examined her body. There were no wounds, despite all the blood I had seen. Her skin was clean, she was warm, she was breathing. I broke down, sobbing, "Please, baby, wake up. You're okay. I know you are. Please." Then her eyes opened. She looked at me weakly and whispered, "Honey, is that you?" I pulled her into my arms, crying with relief. She kept whispering softly, "Don't worry about me. I'll be fine." I rushed to get her some water, opened her mouth to help her drink, and saw it. Her teeth, blood smeared across them. Still, I helped her sip from the bottle, got her into the tent, and sat beside her for the rest of the night, keeping watch. I was overwhelmed with fear, but too relieved to question anything at the time. Too grateful to have found her. I didn't even stop to think how strange it all was. When the sun finally rose, I was beyond exhausted. She stirred, and I began packing up our things. She didn't say much, just sat there, dazed, watching me. She didn't answer any of my questions. I told her we had to leave right away. "Please, be quick," she said. Her voice was raspy, but I figured it was from the trauma. Still, there was something off, her tone flat, her eyes distant. She wasn't really reacting to anything I said. I picked up her backpack to put it on her, but she didn't move. Just sat there staring at me, almost like she didn't understand what I was doing. I gently helped her to her feet. "It's okay," I told her. "You don't have to talk right now, but we need to go. We'll get help." I slung the backpack over her shoulders and guided her toward the path leading back to the car. The entire way, she trailed behind me, always a few steps slower, never matching my pace. She seemed distracted. A few times she even turned and wandered off the trail, heading into the woods. Each time I gently grab her arm and steer her back. "No, honey, not that way. We're going home." Was this some kind of PTSD? Shock? Something wasn't right. Eventually, we made it to the car. I opened her door, helped her into the seat, and buckled her in. She still looked like she wasn't fully there. The 30-minute drive back was painfully quiet. She didn't say a word, just stared at me, watching, studying me. "I love you, honey," I told her, trying to reassure us both. "Everything's gonna be okay." As we reached the edge of town, I wrestled with the decision. Should I take her to the police or maybe a hospital? But each time I brought it up, she grew tense, panicked even. "No, we can't. Everything is going to be okay." At least her speech had become more fluid, more emotional. I tried to see it as progress. Now here I am. It's been 3 days since we returned home, and things aren't getting better, they're getting worse. At night, she doesn't sleep. She just sits up watching me. Hours go by and she doesn't say a word, except occasionally whispering, "Babe, it's just me. I love you, honey. Everything is going to be okay." But it doesn't sound right. There's no warmth behind it, like she's repeating the words without understanding them. Most of the time, she stands alone at the window, staring out at nothing. Even when she's near me, I don't feel like she's with me. I feel like I'm being observed, studied. Today, I caught her roaming the neighborhood. When I reached her, she grabbed my hand and began to pull me along. I tried to resist, but she was frighteningly strong. I could barely keep up as she dragged me. "We Go back. There, a cold wave of dread washed over me. I couldn't see it yet, but I knew where she was taking me. Toward the door, I yanked myself free, and that's when it hit me with absolute clarity. This is not my wife. Update. I didn't expect to be writing this. I really didn't. But after going through your comments, it's obvious. I have to act. I've come up with a plan. It's far from perfect, and honestly, I'm terrified. I haven't been sleeping, and I live every minute in fear. There are a few things weighing heavily on me. First, I can't let it know I'm onto it. If it suspects anything, I could be in danger. No, I am in danger, and I need to stop referring to it as her. It's not her, not anymore. Second, even if I manage to destroy it, there's still going to be a body. What then? Who's going to believe me? If someone finds the body, they'll assume it's my wife. What do I say? That a creature took her place and I figured it out? I don't want to end up in jail for something I didn't do. Third, I'm not even sure this thing can be killed. And fourth, most importantly, it murdered my wife. Whatever this thing is, it took her from me. It has to pay. I woke up this morning with resolve in my chest. I'm going back to the forest. I rolled over in bed and saw it again, just lying there beside me. Its expression flat, empty. Still, it looked so real. I reached out and touched its face, warm skin, faint sweat on the brow. How can something so wrong feel so normal? Still hoping, still desperately wanting to be wrong, I asked, "Good morning, honey. Did you sleep okay?" "I love you, honey. Everything is going to be okay." Damn it, that response. Always the same, always hollow. I knew then and there. It was time. I had stayed up all night working on a plan. It wasn't complex, but like any plan, I knew there were plenty of ways it could all go sideways. "Hey," I said gently, trying to sound as normal as possible. "I know we had to cut our camping trip short. I'm really sorry about that. But how about we take just one more day out at the lake before I go back to work?" Its eyes went wide, almost unnaturally so. Then came a twisted, curling grin, the first real expression I'd seen on its face. And it wasn't comforting. It was terrifying. "We go back there." "Yes, sweetheart, we'll go back," I replied calmly. "I'll get everything ready." I slipped out of bed and headed into the bathroom. As soon as I shut the door behind me, I pressed my ear to it. I could hear it moving around the bedroom. I couldn't let it suspect anything. If it knew I was onto it, I had no idea how it might react. I opened the medicine cabinet and grabbed every bottle I could find, Ambien, Vicodin, whatever was in there, and stuffed the pills into my pocket. So far, so good. I headed into the kitchen. "Hey," I called over my shoulder, "think you could make us a couple sandwiches for the road?" I already knew the answer. It couldn't. That thing didn't even know how to make a sandwich. I just needed to give it a chance to prove itself or fail. It stared blankly at me. Exactly what I expected. "My bad," I said quickly. "You're probably still tired. Don't worry about it. I've got it. Here, come sit down." I guided it to the table and got to work on the sandwiches, ones I knew neither of us would ever touch. After that, I slipped outside and took a look at my old junker of a boat. Barely seaworthy. Just an aluminum shell with no engine. Basically a glorified metal bucket. I tossed a pair of oars into it, yanked out the cinder blocks keeping the trailer in place, and threw those in too. Then I hitched the trailer to my truck. Back inside, I said, "I'm just about ready. Why don't you hop in the truck? I'll be right behind you." It stood up and stared at me again, its eyes cold and searching. My stomach turned. Was it suspicious? Did I push too far? No, this was just what it did. It always stared like that. I gently placed my hand on its back and guided it out the door. Once it was inside the truck, I headed back into the house. Time was short. I pulled out all the pills and began crushing them, creating a fine powder, mostly Ambien and Vicodin. I poured the mixture into a water bottle and marked it carefully. Then I prepped a second bottle with clean water and packed both into a small bag. I made my way to the bedroom, opened the closet, and grabbed my pistol. I checked the chamber, then tucked it into the bag with the water bottles. Before leaving, I peeked through the blinds. My heart sank. The truck door was open and it was gone. I bolted into the kitchen and stopped dead in my tracks. It was standing there, next to the counter, sniffing the air. Its face slowly turned toward me, blank as ever. It stared. I swallowed the rising fear. "Come on, honey," I said, forcing a smile. "If we don't get going soon, we'll run out of daylight." We climbed into the truck and I placed the bag just behind my seat. Then we set off. There was an old dirt road that wound around to the far side of the lake, rarely used, completely isolated, no campsites anywhere nearby. That made it the perfect spot for what I needed to do. As we neared the lake, I noticed something unsettling. A flicker of something like excitement started showing on its face, almost human, but not quite. It kept glancing at me, then out the window, then back again, like something inside it was waking up. I figured it was time. I reached into the bag and pulled out the 2 water bottles. I opened one, the clean one, and took a long drink, then handed the second bottle to it. It took it in both hands and held it up, eyeing the contents carefully. My stomach dropped. From where I sat, I could see it too. Sediment swirling around at the bottom of the bottle, tiny particles from the crushed pills. It brought the bottle to its nose and sniffed, its nostrils flaring. Then, that same twisted smile stretched across its face. Without hesitation, it raised the bottle to its lips and chugged it down. What? I had been sure it was on to me, but maybe not. Maybe it was just too dumb to understand what I'd done. Or maybe it simply didn't care. It locked eyes with me as it drank, and I forced a smile. "We're almost there, honey." Its gaze began to dull. Eyelids started drooping. By the time we reached the water's edge and I backed the trailer into the lake, it had gone completely limp, eyes shut tight. It was more luck than I could have hoped for. I hadn't even been sure the drugs would have any effect on it. I reached into the bag and pulled out my pistol, tucking it into the back of my jeans. Then I went around to its door and started pulling it from the seat. I needed to move fast. There was no telling how long it would stay under. Its body flopped to the ground with a dull thud, motionless. I stood over it for a second, staring. It looked just like her, too much like her. I crouched down and studied her face, my wife's face. Perfect, soft features. Everything was so convincing. I pulled at its lips, hoping to see something, anything, that would prove what I already knew. The teeth looked normal, too normal. But then I noticed something. I tugged the lower lip a little farther down, farther than I should have been able to. Below the pink of the inner lip, I caught a glimpse of something. Bone, maybe? Or skin, pale, rubbery-looking flesh beneath the surface. I leaned closer, trying to get a better look. That's when I felt it. A sudden crushing pressure around my throat. It was awake. Its eyes were wide open now, staring right into mine, and it was smiling. That thing had played me like a fool, and now I was going to pay for it with my life. It rose to its feet, lifting me effortlessly by the throat. My feet left the ground as I struggled, gasping, thrashing against its grip. I kicked, punched, clawed, but nothing fazed it. It was like trying to hurt stone. My vision started to blur. Panic set in. My lungs were screaming for air. It began walking toward the trees, dragging me along like a rag doll. Then, one clear thought cut through the fog. The gun. I fumbled at my waistband, fingers closing around the grip. With what little strength I had left, I shoved the barrel into its chest and pulled the trigger. Once, twice, 3 times. Then everything went black. I woke up on the ground, coughing, gasping for breath. I was alone. The thing was gone. There were a few drops of blood nearby, but not nearly enough, not for 3 gunshots. It should have been dead. I scrambled to my feet and looked around. Nothing but forest. I had no idea where I was. Fear crawled up my spine again, alone, lost, and that thing still out there. I staggered through the trees, desperate to find something familiar. Anything. Then, finally, salvation. I spotted the lake through the trees. I sprinted toward it, adrenaline carrying me faster than I thought possible. From the shoreline, I could see the truck in the distance, maybe a quarter mile away. I ran harder, but just as I got close, I froze in my tracks. What if it was waiting, hiding, setting a trap? Heart pounding, I crept forward, scanning the trees. I was about 100 feet from the truck when I felt it, that same sickening sensation crawling over my skin, like I was being watched. Then came the voice. "Honey, is that you? Are you okay?" It was close, somewhere in the trees. That was all I needed. I broke into a full sprint. Forget the boat. Survival was now the only priority. That thing knew I was onto it, and it wanted me dead as much as I wanted it gone. I dove into the truck and slammed the door shut. The engine roared to life and spat up dirt as I floored it down the trail, speeding away from the lake. My eyes darted to the trees lining the road, searching for movement, for any sign it was following. But I looked forward too late. A figure, her body, charged out of the woods, sprinting directly at the truck. It launched itself at the windshield. Crash! Glass exploded around me as it smashed into the cab. That ungodly shriek pierced the air. "It's just me!" It kept howling, voice breaking down into a mess of screams and garbled noise. Words weren't coming easy anymore, like it was struggling to even mimic human speech. One hand clutched the steering wheel, the other flailed behind me, searching for the pistol. It was still reaching in, snarling, clawing. Its fingers latched onto my collar and yanked. I felt myself being dragged toward the shattered window. The wheel jerked. The truck veered. We were heading straight for the trees. I had just enough time to whisper a silent prayer, begging to survive what was about to happen. The truck smashed into the forest, metal crumpling, branches snapping. Our bodies were flung through the air. I hit the ground hard and rolled, tumbling until I came to a skidding stop. I was alive. Somehow I'd made it. Blood soaked into my clothes. I was definitely hurt, but I could move. I could breathe. I was still here. I staggered toward the wreckage. The truck was demolished, mangled beyond recognition. I realized with a cold shiver how lucky I'd been to be thrown clear before the full impact. Then I began searching for it. A few feet from the wreck, I found the other body twisted around the base of a tree. It wasn't moving, but it was still breathing. I didn't have much time. I scrambled through the debris, searching for anything useful. Eventually, I spotted a coil of rope, something that had been sitting in the bed of the truck since our last camping trip. Without wasting a second, I got to work, binding its wrists and ankles as tightly as I could. Even in this broken state, the thing was terrifying. No blood, no visible injuries. Its bones didn't even seem broken. It was built to survive. All the more reason to hurry. Once the knots were tight, I grabbed the rope and began dragging it back toward the lake. The distance wasn't far, maybe a few hundred feet, but every step was a battle. Just before we reached the water, it began to wail, a horrible animalistic screech. Its face twisted into something hideous, pure rage, hatred, inhuman fury. It writhed and strained, muscles flexing against the rope. For a moment, fear gripped me so hard I thought I'd collapse. If it broke free now, there'd be no lucky escape. This would be the end. Maybe it would kill me, maybe it would wear my face next. But then something flipped inside me. That fear burned away, replaced by a searing rage. All I could see was what it had done to her, what it had taken from me. I gritted my teeth and kept dragging it, fueled by fury. I hauled it the last few feet, hoisted it over the side of the old boat, and shoved off from shore. I grabbed the oars and started rowing. Every stroke tore at my muscles. My shoulders burned, my palms split open, blood mixing with the sweat on my skin. The rope was starting to fray. I didn't know how much time I had. The thing didn't stop screaming, not once. Its eyes never left mine. But finally, I was far enough out, deep enough. This was it. I took the loose end of the rope and wrapped it around the 2 cinder blocks lying at my feet. As I tightened the knot, the creature fell silent. The rage melted off its face. What replaced it was something worse, something haunting. My wife's face, calm, soft, innocent, and it broke me. Tears poured down my face as I collapsed to my knees in the boat. I love you, honey. Everything is going to be okay. The words were soft, familiar, just like she used to say. I cried harder, heart torn in half. How could I do this? How could I end something that wore the face of the person I loved more than anything? Then it spoke again, voice cold and hollow. What were you doing? I met its eyes through my tears. Only what has to be done, only what you deserve. Rage flooded back into its expression. Honey, it's just me. I kicked the cinder blocks over the side and watched as my wife's body, or what wore her body, slumped over and hit the water with a splash. Slowly, it sank into the black depths, disappearing from sight. Gone. I collapsed into the boat and broke down, sobbing. It was done, but it would never truly be okay. Whatever I had left of a life we had left was gone now. I was alone. Eventually, I picked myself up and began rowing back to shore. Each pull of the oars felt heavier than the last. I stepped onto dry land and started walking up the trail. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting the forest in deep shadows. I had a long walk ahead before I could reach a proper road. I didn't say a word, didn't look back, just moved forward, feeling both victorious and utterly broken. At one point, I thought I heard voices. Campers, maybe, somewhere beyond the trees. But I didn't stop. I wasn't about to step foot back into those woods. Not again. Night had fallen by the time I stumbled onto a main road. I waved down the first vehicle I saw, an older woman driving alone. She took one look at me, disheveled and bloodied, and instinctively reached for her phone. Ma'am, I said, raising my hand slightly. There's been an accident. I crashed into the woods. Please, I just need help. There was a moment where her eyes softened, sympathy replacing suspicion. She lowered the phone and offered me a ride. She drove me back into town. I told her I lived nearby and that my wife would come with me in the morning to recover the truck. A lie, of course, but a necessary one. She dropped me off in front of the house. I thanked her, then stepped inside. It was quiet, too quiet. I sank onto the couch, cracked open a beer, and turned on the TV, hoping for just a moment of distraction. The news was on. A bold headline scrolled across the screen. Gruesome murder mystery. The anchor's face appeared. Her tone was grave. We're just receiving disturbing new information. Investigators are currently on scene at a popular lakeside campsite where what appears to be human skin has washed up along the shoreline. Yes, you heard that correctly. No body has been found, but authorities confirm what they discovered was human skin, apparently removed in a brutal manner. They believe the victim was skinned alive, though the investigation is still developing. If you or anyone you know has information about this crime. I turned the TV off. My stomach dropped. My heart raced. Had it escaped? Had that thing shed her skin and vanished into the water? Did it survive? And if it did, how long before it took someone else's skin? How long before it came back to find me?